of the Planning and Zoning Commission for Tuesday, June 20th, 2023 to order. Dave, will you please call the roll?
Commissioner Tedesco.
Present.
Commissioner Volpe.
Here.
Commissioner Clark.
Here.
Commissioner Walewski.
Here.
Alternate Commissioner Caird.
Here.
Alternate Commissioner Coviello.
Here.
Alternate Commissioner Coles.
Present.
Alternate Commissioner Ma. Commissioner Santiago.
Here.
Vice Chair Salka.
Here.
And Chair Hammersley.
Hammersley's here. We do have a full quorum. If we could all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, please. All please remain standing for a moment of silent reflection. Thank you. I'm looking for a motion to approve the minutes from our regular meeting on June 6th of 2023. Do we have a motion?
So move, Mr. Chairman.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Is that Tedesco down there? Great. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? I'm going to abstain because I wasn't here, but motion carries. Commissioner discussion, subcommittee reports. Peter?
Yes. Pleased to report the Regulations Subcommittee has completed its task of review. So the timeframe or the tasks that we now have in front of us, we did bring it to Glenn, the suggestion, I think it was from Commissioner Clark, to have Attorney Ricky Adone's staff kind of do a clickable run-through before we get it, and he said that's fine. But the good news is, in the beginning part of July, all commissioners were targeting to get a full copy of the regulations that'll be clickable. So we could all, kind of have a trial run ourselves with that. So I think that's good news. Look for it early part of July. Probably won't be a straight email thing, probably be like a Dropbox thing, because obviously megabytes is too heavy for being an email. But the rest of the timeline would be, we'd like Plan Metrics to come in, and for lack of a better word, to do a demonstration at our meeting in July. If you remember, in July and August, we're only on one meeting a month. For July, commissioners can weigh in at that time if they see something, they want to change or clicks or whatever. Same thing with our meeting in August. We need to, as is required, get a regional referral for a public hearing, must have public hearings. And so we would propose having the first public hearing at our first meeting in September. So we need to be able to put that forward. So what we would, optimally have, probably 2 public hearings in our 2 September meetings. If all goes well, we could have a vote at that time, but that gives us time to look at it. Also, Dave said that the clickable version would also be put on the town website for July, so the public will have access to it from July through the summer to the September meeting. So that's a positive development too. I didn't realize that, so Dave said that yesterday they can make that happen, so that's good for Dave to do that. So that's kind of where we are with things. And again, just for public consumption, this is not meant to change stuff. It is to make things easier to find, easier to read, transparency, make sure we have stuff that is according to public statute written in the appropriate manner, that kind of thing. We have a lot of items that you'll find in the margins of the stuff that we sent to you that, for lack of a better, belong in a parking lot, if you will. So we're, trying to accumulate those things. So for either this commission or future commissions could use that as a roadmap going forward. And so now, if there's things that folks may not like, I don't think those setbacks should be that way in that zone. Great, it's easier to find. But what will be consistent is the word setback or frontage, I forget what we changed it to, will be consistent throughout all the regulations, whereby before it was different. And so that's kind of the spirit of things. And so one of the things that was discussed, that it's really to the commissions what they want, Do you want to have a special meeting outside of regular meetings in the summertime for public to weigh in? Or do you think, we had talked about that previously, so that's why I wanted to talk about it. But I didn't realize that we could get the regulations on the website. So for me, if the regulations are on the website, the public is going to be able to see it and have really almost 2 months before, 2 public hearings in September. So I don't know the need for that necessarily, but whatever the commission's pleasure is, it would mean coming in for a special meeting. By the way, at a special meeting, we could not talk. We could only listen because it's not a public hearing. But that's a timeline that we're working toward, assuming everything goes fine.
Yeah, so I think that why don't we wait until we get the send-outs?
Agree.
And we're back here on July 18th, I believe.
Yep,
And maybe we can see what the flavor of the commission might be at that time.
I agree. I tend to agree, but everybody's going to be able, hopefully, beginning part of July, that's what he said, Dave, right? Yes, said the beginning part of July, we'll all get a clickable version of stuff, we can play with it and see
Sure.
what
First
we
week.
see. And again, if any commission member sees anything that, hey, that's not right, or that doesn't work, whatever, get it to us, get it to Dave, and Plan Metrics can make those changes before the July meeting. So that's the purpose of that, of the July meeting and August meeting, to get those kind of things out of the way, so that come public hearing wise, we're cool. Okay? That's what I got.
Thanks for the update, Peter, and-
Sure.
and thank you for all your work that you've put in on this. I look forward to seeing what that looks like, and I'm sure other members do as well. So any other subcommittee reports? Seeing none, we'll move into the public hearings, but before I do that, I'm just going to read some, what we call the preamble. So good evening and welcome to tonight's meeting of the Southington Planning and Zoning Commission. My name is Robert Hammersley. I'm the chair of the commission, and I want to take a few moments to explain the meeting format for members in the audience. Aside from administrative items, tonight's meeting is comprised of 2 parts, a public hearing and a business meeting. During the public hearing, the applicant gets an opportunity to present their application to the commission and the general public in detail, which will allow commission members as well as the public the opportunity to better understand what is being proposed. The commission members may ask questions during the presentation if needed. They will ask members of the public who support or oppose the application to speak. If you wish to speak, please raise your hand and wait to be recognized by myself. Once recognized, come forward to the podium right there and state your name and address for the record. Please address all comments directly to myself and not to the applicant or other members of the public. Be advised that this is an opportunity to ask questions and make comments on an application because once the public hearing is closed, no additional testimony from the public or the applicant will be permitted. It is important to maintain order and decorum at all times during the meeting. After everyone has had a full opportunity to speak, all questions have been answered, and all information has been received, we will decide whether it's appropriate to close the hearing. We will not consider voting on the application until the business meeting. During the business meeting, the commission members will deliberate the application submitted to the commission and decide how to act on them. We may take one of 4 different options. Approve the application as submitted, approve it with stipulations, conditions, or modifications, table the action for a future meeting, or in some cases, deny an application. 4 affirmative votes of the commissioner are generally required to approve any application. If you have to leave the meeting before a decision is rendered, please call the planning department tomorrow afternoon. Dave LaValle down there at the end, and he can give you the results of tonight's meeting. And with that, we will open up the public hearing on item 8A, Mount Southington LTD Partnership Special Permit Modification Application for expansion of existing SPU for 396 Mount Vernon Road to add a parcel located at 426 Mount Vernon Road. Property located at 426 Mount Vernon Road is zoned in an R2025 SPU 681. Seb Bravino, the floor is yours, sir.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, commission members. By the way, Mr. Chairman, welcome back.
It's good to be back, sir.
Thank
Thank you.
Seb Bovino, planner with Kratzer Jones and Associate, represent the applicant. The property, as you indicated, is located at the east side of Mount Vernon Road, number 426, which is shaded area on the map on the screen. It is in our 2025 zone, served by public water and septic system. The land area is 3.7 acres, occupied by a 2-story building, about 1,800 square foot each floor. It was used in the past as a residence and a sawmill operation. This property is next to and across the Mount Southington ski area. The proposal is to modify the current SPU
Thank you, Dave.
to include this property. It will be an expansion of the current operation. For direction purpose, the north is up, site is in the center, the parking lot that you're familiar with is on the south side of the shaded area. Let's see. The plan is to use this building to house the seasonal ski rental operation, which is now at the building across the street. The way it works, the operation, is that starting in August and concluding in November, the skiers interested will be fitted. It takes about 15 minutes each skier to be fitted. Then the skier will leave the site with the skis and return in April to return the equipment they used throughout the season. There will be a maximum of 10 people at any given time, including the 5 employees. The bottom floor will be used to meet the clients and for storage. The second floor will be a conference room and document storage area. The equipment to tune the skis fits about a 4x8 table to do the tuning. No noise generated will be heard outside the walls. There will be some pellet racking for large parts used in the operation across the street. There will be some parking in the front connected to the one to the south. So there will be a connection to the parking lot to the south. It's hard to see my red line here. There'll be here's the parking lot, will be a curb cut right here, and there's a curb cut to the east or west at this location. With the application, we provide an area map, notified people within 500 feet, provide proof of the mailing to the planning department. There will not be any food use at this location. We do not expect additional traffic. The outside lots will be according to the requirements. The property is bounded north and east by open space. This here to the north, here is open space owned by the town. And then there's some residents at this location. And then open space here and residents here, which these mostly are next to the current parking lot. Obviously, across the street, we have the current operation. We submit to you that the request is harmonious to the area. It does not affect the safety and welfare of the neighbors. We received staff comments. Most of them are site plan related comments. At this point, if you have any questions, I'll be glad to address them.
Thanks, Ev, I appreciate that. Are there any wetlands on this property?
Yes,
And though, anything to do with that would be addressed in the site plan?
that will be addressed at the site plan stage.
Okay,
yes.
and just to be clear, this is a modification to an approval on this site. What was the original approved use of this site?
The use here was a residence and a sawmill operation for
Okay.
years,
Okay.
going back to the 50s.
And back to the 50s, and the SPU, is my understanding, was granted sometime in the 1970s or that decade, maybe?
Yes, the
Okay.
SPU for the ski area was granted in those years and has been in continuous operation since then. They've been good neighbors. And the opportunity came that this property was for sale. It's right next to their operation, so there we are, asking for the permission to expand the current use to this property.
Okay, and in terms of process, a site plan application will follow, assuming that this gets approved, for the sake of the conversation. A site plan will follow this, but the site plan is not part of this. Is that correct?
That's right. There's no site plan in front of you
This
tonight.
is simply a request to modify the SPU.
Yes.
Special permit application.
Just in case you don't approve of it, then all this is off. We have
Right.
to do something
And
else.
as you said, this property, as well as this property, are owned by the town of Southington,
Yes, those are open
correct?
space.
This is the parking lot that Mount Southington currently uses, and the skiing area is over on the west
Yes.
side here, correct?
Yes. The
So-
restaurant is right across where you're pointing.
It's up in this area, I
right
think,
here.
right?
Yep.
Okay. And in terms of residential abutting, directly abutting to the site in question here. We're talking about this, that's owned by Gene Miller, I believe. And this is owned by a James and Ashley Stevens, is that correct?
I have a list provided, I don't know the name.
I'm
of
looking
it.
at your map here, so that's what's
Yes.
listed on there, so I assume that that's all correct. Okay, any questions from members of the commission to the applicant? Peter?
So, Seth, I heard, I guess, I misinterpreted what you said. So this operation, I get what it's for, and so this operation that you want for this thing currently takes place where on your map?
Across the street to the west,
Where, show me.
in this area here.
So on the same
Next to-
side of the street as where the ski area is? And so
It's-
now you want to go across the street, is that
Across the
right?
street, yes. The
So what-
restaurant is here.
Okay.
Then there's office, the house here where you get the tickets.
Yeah.
Here's the barn, and then here's an operation that they do their maintenance. And so the ski operation is held, I believe, at this location here, at the house, and there's an area in the restaurant area next to the house there.
Gotcha. And so this thing that you're proposing will be in the area that you're talking about. Parking lot stays the same.
There will be a parking lot in the front of that building.
So there'll be, but we're not talking site plan, so there'll be a parking lot there and whatever operation you're looking to take care of will be there.
Yes, and as a matter of fact, I have the preliminary, which I believe I submitted. Let me see if I can X off of this one. Oops.
Yeah, don't do that.
Careful there, Sam.
Yeah.
Come on, Christina.
I lost
come on.
it. There you go, there you go. Preliminary plan, Mount Southington, right here.
Going in Nepal.
There you go.
Perfect, thank you. And again, we're not doing site plan tonight, but that's like a
Yeah.
proposed, what you're looking at.
So basically, the green is all the wooded area, wetlands, some floodplain. The yellow is the building that's there, and the parking lot to the south. So the connection will be between the two parking lots
Okay,
and the current driveway, so it'll be a two-way access.
gotcha. Okay, thank you, that helps.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Mr.
Is that, okay. Any other members of the commission have
Just
any
a
questions? for the-
quick
Go
question.
ahead, Bob.
The existing, the site that you're talking about, that also was a sawmill at one time, correct?
Correct.
I don't, you may have said that, but I didn't.
Yes, I did.
It was a sawmill in the back.
Yes.
Okay, thank
There,
you.
there's still slabs, concrete slabs back here, and there were trucks and other things that they removed recently. They've been
Right.
cleaning up the area.
Thank you. That's it, Mr.
Okay. Steve, go ahead.
So I know we're not talking site plan here, but my assumption would be that any future site plan would include buffers or something to make sure that the existing homeowners that are bordering the property will be adequately.
Yeah, the plan is,
Taken care of.
the plan is to leave quite a bit of this area, which abuts the neighbors, untouched.
Okay.
Uh,
So it'll basically, when they look out their windows, it'll look like.
They
much
will
like it
have the
did
same
before.
buffer, the wooded area that they see now.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yep.
Great, good question, Steve. Caleb?
So, hi, Sub. So the current use, sawmill or whatever, would be considered commercial? And we're going to kind of change that to retail? Is that kind of what
It's,
we're,
I don't know if this
We kinda
will
go
be
to brass tacks,
retail.
that's what we're looking at
It's
here?
a service related to the ski area.
It's a
They're
rec-
not
I-
selling the skis, they are servicing the skis and having people come in to be fitted, and then.
yeah, no, we use the service. I get it, but we're essentially, it's the use being,
Yeah, if it's considered retail, that's retail.
Mr.
but I don't
Chairman, I
know if
think-
Yeah,
clarify
Dave,
that.
go ahead.
So I
please.
think what we would call it is accessory to a recreational use.
And that's allowed under the
Yeah,
regulations.
by special permit.
thank you
Yeah.
both.
Okay. Any other? Christina?
Just to confirm, Seb, there is an easement on this property?
Easement?
Is there any type of easements? I see something on the north
Yes,
here.
there's a drainage easement which we're gonna leave in place. There's a pipe discharge from the town of Southington into that area.
Okay, great, thank you.
Yep.
All right. Anyone else? Sev, anything before we invite the public up?
That's it.
Okay. Take a seat. Let's open it up to members of the public. If there's any members of the public who would like to comment on this application, I'm going to remind people that the comment is on the special permit application. It is not on the site plan, which we have not seen yet, but will see in the future following action on the special permit application. So if there's members of the public who would like to speak on the special permit application, please approach the podium, give us your name and address, and share your thoughts. The special permit application, again, is to change the approved use of that building at that site from a, what would you call it, Seth, like a maintenance type of operations to more of an equipment storage servicing operation, correct? Is that accurate enough? Nothing? Yeah, come on up, sir.
Sure.
Again, please start with your name and address.
My name is Bill Sargent. I live on 56 Ski-View Drive. I live right in back of the sawmill, and that thing floods all the time. The wetlands, the neighbor across the street, 4 feet he can dig. How much are you going to fill in over there? How much of the wetland? are you
Sir,
gonna
your questions are directed at me.
Okay, how much of the land are they going to fill in over there? Because that water is going to affect, where's the water going to go? It's going to go in everybody's backyard. It's there now, and it's going to affect everybody all the way down the line, even to, what you call it, that big Pubanese Pond. There's always water there. I could dig down in my yard right now, and in about 10, 15 feet, you hit water. I got a sub pump in my house. And I don't think that wet line should be touched. I think it should be left alone, because we're going to end up having a problem. I've been there for 53 years, since the house was new. I seen that sawmill when it was running, when the old man had it. About 30 years ago, the old man tried to fill in that. All the people all got together, and they signed a permit, and they stopped them from doing it. Now here it is, 25, 30 years later, now they want to, because they bought it, the ski area, now they want to do what they want to do with it. I don't think it's right, and I think the people around it are going to have a problem. You could talk to this gentleman over there, he knows too. He's got water in his basement too. Where's the water going to go? You can't put a big pipe there. All the runoff comes from the road. The ski area, you can go right over my house right now and look in the back over there, and you can see where water is running. Where's it coming from? A small stream. Where's it coming from? Even right now, you go over my house and you can see it. It's going in back of Steve's house. That guy keeps that place clean. I mean, he cleans all the, what do I want to say, different areas where the water runs. He's got that thing clean all the time. The town comes down there, they try to stop him at one time, but they see how good of a job he does, so they don't even bother. But if you let this thing go by, the people are going to have a problem, and unless they have some other way of getting rid of the water, and you're not going to, because it's running off from the ski area, from the snow, in the winter time, and who knows, I don't know where all the piping runs, but I think it's a bad thing to let them do that. That's the way I feel about it. Like I said, I've been there for 53 years. I've been seeing what goes on and everything else. The other people next door, the neighbor next door is a cop. He just bought that property about 4 months ago. And he's upset about it because he likes the wetland back there. I just said my piece.
I appreciate that, Bill. We'll see if we can get a comment out of the applicant, but
They should have somebody come
hold on, Bill, let me finish. I do believe that most of your comments were directed at the site plan, which is not before us tonight, but let's see if the applicant's willing to address your concerns once everyone's had an opportunity to talk. Is there any other members of the public who'd like to speak? Come on up.
My name's Steve Spence. I'm at 461 Mount Vernon. We're on the north side of the wetlands from that property. I have 2 questions. First one is again, to reiterate what he said, as long as the wetlands is, what's the status with the wetlands? How is it going to be affected? It will affect our property, as he had mentioned. During the spring, my sump pump runs at least 15 minutes out of every hour. And if the wetlands is affected, I'm going to be directly affected. Second thing is I see that's a large parking lot that they want to put in between what is, you know, the house, or what used to be, I guess, the sawmill itself, and the roadway. What type of drainage are they looking to do with that? Because that obviously, that water, if it rains, that water's got to go somewhere. If it's snow, when it melts, it's got to go somewhere. So I'd like to know, is it going to go into the ground, or is it going to get just funneled into the wetlands? Because again, if it goes straight into the wetlands, that now affects me. So, thank you.
I appreciate your comments, Steve. Again, those are mostly site plan issues, but we'll see if the applicant's willing to speak to that tonight, although I'm not sure a site plan's actually been approved, pending approval on this. But are there any other members of the public who'd like to speak on this application? Seeing none. Sev? You heard the comments. I think that I
Yes.
led off by asking if you were going to fill in any wetlands or take any adverse action on wetlands in the area, recognizing it's a site plan issue, and you're not obligated to disclose this right now because you might not know the answer to it. And I don't want you to tie yourself to something that down the road doesn't become something that the applicant and you work out together. But I want to give you an opportunity also to address that if you would like.
Yes, I do. In part, because we don't have the wetlands and the plan
Right.
totally done yet. But the town regulation requires that any development in town achieves zero increase in runoff, which means any development cannot increase the runoff of water going into a stream nearby or a property next door. So that will not happen. The staff will make sure of that. And if there are existing problems, I can assure that our proposal is not going to make it worse. Because again, because of the regulations that require the zero increase in runoff.
Okay. And I would encourage, to the extent possible, if you can improve the situation even, you know, I'm not sure whether they're open to that or not, but of course, that would be greatly appreciated by the neighbors who both spoke tonight, as well as I think members of this commission as well. And I think that the facility has been very, very good resident of the town, if you will. So if you can bring that message back to them and hopefully work something out, I personally would appreciate that. So, any other questions from members of the commission on the application? Nick?
I would just like to comment that after hearing questions, comments from the public, that we will consider, when it comes to drainage, it will be of utmost concern when we evaluate any future site plans. It is a very poorly drained area with an easement already in place. So I just want you to rest assured that does not, that's not something that we're going to overlook.
All right. Anyone else? Peter?
Yeah, just to emphasize, I remember we had other applications, and Tony Tranquill's name was mentioned, that, leave it better than you found it. And so I think those are the overarching words that come to mind, particularly for something like this, Use-wise, I think the use that you're describing is pretty much identical to the use that's there, but we have an existing problem with what's there. So I think SPU-wise, you're well within your rights to ask for this. It doesn't seem like there's anything different within regs for what you're asking for. I think the real work gets done when we start talking site plan. I think that's the point that we're hearing. And so we'll take special emphasis on that. But I think use-wise, what you're asking for is, and thanks to Dave for your clarification on accessory use of residential, I think that's exactly what it is. So as far as regulation-wise, I don't really see myself much of an issue here as far as that.
I can say that over the years, we've done a lot of applications where the neighbors had concerns. It was really bad situations, and things got made it better, not worse. A lot of the applications.
Right, which is why we love for the public to come, because
Yeah.
if they don't say, we don't know. And so we can't put an emphasis on things if they don't. So,
And
kudos to the public for coming.
we are dealing with an existing condition as far as the building.
Yeah.
We put in a parking lot in the front, but we have to design that and make sure that nothing happens.
Yeah, right. No, it's all valid comments that we heard tonight, and that's why we have public hearings, to make things better. So that's the way it's supposed to work.
Thank you.
Yep.
So just before we close the public hearing on this, which is my next step, I want to turn to our engineering and planning department and make sure they don't have any outstanding items on their list that haven't been responded to adequately or to your satisfaction.
No, I don't have any issues.
You both are good? So let the record reflect that I'm getting affirmative nods from both Jim Grappone and Dave LaValle down at the end, so we can put that on the record. Is there any objection to closing the public hearing on this application at this time from members of the commission?
Nope.
Sev, you good closing it? You all good? All right, let's close that. We'll move on to item 8B. 6C LLC special permit application for a child daycare facility property located at 36 Queen Street, Zone B, SPU 678. I've been told that we do not want you, for security purposes, to attach your laptop to that one. So if we can operate a little bit differently from that.
Sure.
I'll give you a minute to do that. While we're waiting for that, I want to recognize an award that Mr. LaValle earned recently. Dave, you want to tell us a little bit about that? Before, go ahead. Put you on the spot a little bit, but we got a buffer here, so I feel let's use
It was
it.
mostly recognition for my work with the land trust over the past 22 years, for, either having input on lands that they're interested in or passing along lands to them, that the town either couldn't purchase or the disposition of it wasn't going to the town, but we still wanted it preserved, so the land trust could step up and try and get it for themselves. They do a great job with the maintenance of their lands, and I was happy to receive the recognition as part of their 50th anniversary.
Well, congratulations again, and you are indeed an asset to our town, so. I appreciate you and all the work that you do for us. Some of which people don't see, but, it makes us all better and more informed with the decisions that we have to make. So we'll try to work off the best of what you got there, but why don't we start with your name and your address so we can get that on the record?
Matthew Pereira, for C6 LLC, for 36 Queen Street in Southington.
Okay. Now,
And-
we've had an extensive we've had a couple public hearings on this one, if I recollect correctly.
This will be the second, yep.
I unfortunately was not here during those, but I did watch the video on TV, so I'm pretty familiar with what was said. The last thing I heard was that we were looking for I don't think, you can turn the lights on, Jim, please. I don't think he has anything for up there. Do you? Is that you?
Yeah.
No,
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 okay.
I wasn't sure. I
Okay.
have a MacBook. I thought I would just be able to plug into
Yeah,
your system. It wasn't working last time.
But
Now I can't use my
I
computer.
saw that,
I gotta get
yeah.
better at these
I
presentations
saw
here.
it. So, last I heard, we were waiting on a traffic study, which you provided recently, which we have in our set of documents up here. And that's where we last left it. You don't need to reiterate anything that you've said previously. We're here to continue the public hearing, so everything that was said previously is part of the record on this application. But of course, I want to give you the opportunity to say anything that you want to say relative to the traffic study or any other things that have come to light in the past within the timeline that you were last here. So,
Mr. Chairman, if I
Sure.
may for 1 second?
Dave.
I just want to make sure, for the record, that there's nothing that you would have tried to present that you couldn't present.
The only,
Based on that.
I mean, I submitted everything for you. I submitted all the stuff that I do want to discuss, so I just don't have anything to portray in front of everyone. But I did bring bigger drawings to try to help, just in case.
Okay.
Just in case I couldn't connect.
all right. Go ahead, Matt. Floor's yours. Take it away.
Okay, so, yeah, I think on our last meeting, there were 7 or 8 major issues that we wanted to address here. So as I said, I did submit some of them. If you don't mind, I kind of go through one by one. The first thing I wanted to bring up, although we did do the traffic study, multiple times throughout the hearing, we were using the use of that property as medical use. I did clarify that sent in the documents back on August 17th of 2022. This board did approve the site to be a commercial retail space, not medical. And I did provide that, just I thought worth mentioning. As well as the issue for the special permit, I'm new at this, so I apologize, but I'm kind of digging in more and more to this. And from what I understand, the special permit, because it's a daycare, it didn't matter what zone it was, where it was, I was here for that special permit no matter what. So I hope that takes a little bit of leeway away from there as well. I did provide a circulation map, and I think I would kind of like to start with that because that was one of the top ones. Do you want me to hold this up and try to explain, or?
No, we have.
I
it
have
on a-
smaller
we
ones
have
that I could
copies
work
up
off
here,
of.
So
Perfect.
unfortunately, members of the public aren't going to be able to see that, but it is on the website for everyone to look at.
I have one, Mr. Chairman, I can pass around if they want to see it.
Does
I have an
everyone it
extra
on
one
their-
as well, if
on
anyone
their
wanted to see it.
computers, or everyone good?
Okay, so this is kind of coincides with the traffic study. I did read through the traffic study, and I'm going to be honest, it's a little bit different language than what I would actually know. So I don't know what we got out of that. I did look at quite a few statements that did say it's not going to add too much and it's within certain levels. I forget the numbers that you guys used for that, or the terminology. But we do show the road being widening in the front main entrance. There is a double in and out. We also have drop-off signs, which we put directly across as you're coming directly in, where it will say pick up and drop off. And following over to our building, we did designate, I think it was 8 spots, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 total spots for pickup and drop off, and they will be labeled with signage. We also dedicated staff parking so that there's no misconception on where someone's going to park or what the feeling or where the most traffic is going to be, and it does show the circulation through. I'm sure we'll get to some questions on that as well. Again, the traffic study has been provided. I'd love to hear some feedback on that. I did send also the adjustments for the interior. We had mentioned at one time, we had a question of the children coming out of the center and into the playground and some safety concerns. I don't know that it was a really big one, but I definitely took that in consideration. And what we decided to do is we adjusted the interior layout so that we actually have a corridor and a stairs that would go directly out into the play area that would be fenced in. So hopefully that would take care of that one there. The signage, the pickup, and then the last thing would be the fence. The fence on one of the zoomed-in drawings of just our building. We went back and forth a few times. Someone had mentioned of double fencing. Somewhat the issue that I had with that is the square footage is extremely important for the kids to play with from Department OEC. You have to have a certain amount of square footage, 75 square feet to be exact, per child. And in order to fit that and somewhat ample amount of space, so it's not super crunched in together, we were looking to propose to keep the existing fence that we have, but instead of having a 4.5 foot, a direct 6 foot chain link with the slats in between it. Everything still will be entirely closed in, but on that drop-off area, the risk of a child climbing the fence and getting over the fence would be highly limited with a 6 foot chain link fence with the slats within it. And I believe that were all the things that were addressed, and I would love to hear some questions.
You all set, Matt?
Yes,
Okay,
please.
I'll open it up to members of the commission. Any members of the commission? Christina?
I'll go for it because I'm the one that asked about the fence. So I'm looking here at your comments to planning comments submitted to us here. I'm looking at number 11 in your conversation on Tuesday, May 9th. It says here, a higher than usual fence may be appropriate given the drop-off adjacent to the play area. And your response was, per OEC and our architect, the fence that is there is within allowable size, 4.5 feet. That contradicts what I just heard. So
That
what
was
are we doing?
original sent. That was sent on the first hearing, not on this, not regarding this. Before that was brought up to me at the hearing.
Are there
So-
revised planning comments that I'm missing?
No, Mr. Chairman, typically, we'll send out the comments, the applicant will come back to us with them, then we'll discuss it some more, and then the plans will be changed. In this case, it appears that with this new drawing, it addresses that specific comment. So that they're updated. They aren't necessarily checklists in response to a checklist response.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
I appreciate that. I
Sure.
guess my follow-up is, it is noted on what we have here in
Correct.
front of us.
Yeah, those would be
Okay.
the approved plans.
That's it, Mr. Chair, at this time. Thank you.
Okay. Anyone else from the commission have any questions? Peter?
So on your revised circular motion, where you have your big map, so people enter in, because you're the, I guess that's south, building, they'll park, drop their child off, back out, come into that space, and then exit, correct?
Yeah, if I'm looking at it correctly, they would pull in, they would park this way, they would come back out, and then circle back around.
Correct.
Correct.
So in staggered times, that may or may not be a big deal. In nighttime or pickup time or heavy times, that could be a big deal because it is a confined space versus, say, a circular motion. And so in a lot of times with daycare, we've seen a lot of sites where the entire site is dedicated to the building, and we have, I don't want to say some discretion in regards to traffic flow within the site. In this particular case, the site is built, and we're trying to say, how can I make what I want to do work, given what I've already had? And so I'm struggling with that particular aspect of the design. I don't know how you can make it better, given the building. And, my time up?
Not for a while, Peter,
Okay,
no.
or the impact this may have on business within the site, whether that has a negative or positive aspect on the other two buildings there, yet to be occupied, granted, but on that, but I guess I'm struggling with the flow. I don't know what else you could do. I think you've done as much as you could do, given the parameters of where you want this to
Correct.
be, but I'm struggling because it's not really a flow of traffic. It's really park back out and exit the same way you came. I understand the flow throughout the site, but in that aspect of it, in regards to daycare, we've been very strict in regards to that from a safety standpoint. Drop off, pick up times of this, and so I guess I'm having a particular hard time with that aspect of it. Kudos to you for changing your interior plan to go out to the playground. I think that's good. You still got a playground near a drop-off land-wise, so it still presents kind of a risk. But again, you're doing as much as you could do, I think, with the site. But that gives me a little pause in regards to what's happening traffic flow-wise within the site, impact on the other two building wise. I mean, if you were the only tenant there, there's probably more that could happen, but unfortunately, you're not. There's two other things there. So within the site, I guess I'm having some issues, just given whether in a special permit, this is the more appropriate use within the confines of this particular site. So that's just my overall impression. It's better, your drawings are certainly better than when you were here last time. So good for you for doing all that is required, but I'm having a particular.
Let me try to pose that in the form of a question for you, Matt.
Yeah, thank you.
I'll try. I hope I hit
Better
it,
than I am.
because I've had some concerns as similar to what you're bringing up, Peter, as well. In terms of the exterior traffic flow, I remember when there was a daycare facility where Beacon Pharmacy is. That used to be a daycare facility. I put
On the
3 kids in
corner
it.
right there?
Right, I put 3 kids in that daycare facility. It obviously is no longer there. The interior flow of traffic at that site allowed for, first of all, it was one single business, there was nothing else there, but allowed for the circulation of bus drop-off and parent drop-off relatively smoothly because they have that upper lot that you can just circulate in. The trouble that, or the concern, I guess I would say, is that I'm having with this plan is the interior traffic flow. It's not the exterior traffic flow that much. I think that can all be handled the way it's designed for the entire site, and that was approved a while ago. But the interior traffic flow seems to be a little bit of a concern, again, with regards to safety of the children who might be going out to buses that are dropping them off or coming off of buses that drop them off, or parents trying to maneuver themselves around that area that is somewhat confined. So Matthew, could you please help me understand how the safety of the children and the occupants and the inflow of that traffic, of that parking lot servicing your facility is addressed adequately to make sure that nothing happens?
Yeah, sure. So a couple things. The other buildings over there, we have actually ample amount. We're well over the allotted or the minimum amount of parking within that parking
Okay.
spot. So it's not like
I'm not
there's.
talking about the amount of parking spaces you have. I'm talking about the interior traffic
Well, I feel that
flow.
kind of goes hand in hand.
Okay.
So if I'm understanding you correctly, you're thinking at drop-off time, we have 5 parents roughly at the same exact time pulling in, taking their kids into the daycare, leaving, backing up, and that traffic that it's going to cause through that,
Well,
correct?
and you presumably, because every daycare facility in the town has buses that are servicing your facility, no?
No, we're ages 6 weeks to 4 years, or 5 years old. So there's absolutely no buses
Okay.
that go in. The only time we would have a bus is if we did a field trip, and pretty much since COVID, the buses don't really
Okay.
do that anymore, so.
All right.
So yeah, buses would not be a concern at all. I do understand the amount of people coming in and out and the circulation. And the only thing I could say is that I feel that we have an ample amount of spaces so that it does provide more room to maneuver throughout there, as well as even the backup. So the parking spots right behind where the pickup drop-off are, one thing I guess we could do, and maybe this would help address, is if we had that as dedicated daycare parking spots, so therefore we wouldn't have the backing up and having a car, and they have more room to maneuver. If I'm, kind of thinking on the fly here, just giving them more room to maneuver, because just because it's a daycare and someone's dropping off, if that was a restaurant at 7 o'clock at night, what would that difference be of the traffic in and out? The kids aren't out there. We purposely we took into one of these gentlemen's consideration of having the kids so they're not out front. The only time they're out front is coming from their parents' car into the front of the daycare, and then from the daycare back into their parents' car. So there's no kids out there. They're all gonna be fenced in, even if they were inside, and the playground is off to the side, not even by the parking lot. So safety for the kids, I don't know that I'm understanding on how that's unsafe for kids. I can understand the circulation. I have seen a couple of your guys, a couple of the other daycares in town, and you're right, the site is built around them, so they could pull in, they have a turnaround, it's a big loop. Unfortunately, I don't have that ability. I am open to suggestions to make it more, maybe get rid of those parking spots that give a bigger loop to turn in and out. But again, the safety wise with the kids, I don't know where that comes into play. The traffic, I do understand, but to me, I don't think we're adding any extra traffic than any other building, any other business, anything would be doing to make it unsafe or make it where it's going to be a hazard to anybody driving.
And of course, you don't want that to happen from a business perspective
my
either.
insurance is expensive
But
enough.
to the point that you brought up, designating or committing parking to the spaces to be used only for daycare is only as good as the person who's pulling into that space to being honest that
And read it.
you're only there for that, right? I mean, I could be going to a medical appointment at one of the other buildings, and all the other parking spaces are filled, but I see one filled that says only for little rascals, or whatever it is, right? Well, I pull in there because I'm going to be in there for 15 minutes, and, maybe I'm not a considerate person. This happens, right? So you're not going to be out there policing that, and
Fair
I
enough.
wouldn't expect you to be out there policing that. So I think it's a good gesture. I'm not sure that it really ends up doing too
Solves
much
that
for it,
problem.
though. But I appreciate your response, and I don't know if any other members of the commission have, Bob Selka.
Looking at the drawing and the layout, I see in the front, it's labeled drop-off and pickup in two separate areas. One right near the entrance, on the north entrance, and then as you get in, before you hit the crosswalk, there's another one that says drop-off and pickup.
Those are signs.
What's that?
That's signage that we're gonna put there. That's just noting that right as you're pulling in, there's gonna be a post with a sign that says daycare.
Okay,
Drop off,
okay.
pickup to the right, and then straight ahead, again, daycare, drop off, pickup to the right. Again, addressing your guys' concerns and directing them exactly where we want to alleviate that traffic to the exact spot.
Well, how are they going to, if they see that sign, pick up and drop off, how is that going to help the flow into and out of? I guess I'm not quite sure, when you say pick up and drop off, that almost connotates that that's where you're going to drop the kids off.
Well, I mean, it's gonna be a sign, it's almost like,
it's a directional
what can I
sign.
use as an example for a sign? That it says, parking in rear. It's gonna just say, pick up, drop off this way, and then as you're going in, pick up, drop off
Okay.
this way. And it's just walking them towards the actual pickup, drop off spots that's right in front.
Okay, thank you.
And it was just something that was mentioned to them, and I thought it was, or mentioned by the panel here, and I thought it was a good idea, so that when you're pulling in, you're like, where am I going to drop the kid off? Do I turn left? Do I turn right? This is directing them exactly where they need to,
So
To
they're
go.
directional signs.
directional signs. Yeah, I'm sorry.
Are we talking now at the traffic study?
Yeah, the whole thing, yeah.
In reviewing the traffic study, it was pretty lengthy, but I really just looked at, I guess delve into one point that was on page 3 on the capacity analysis, and it said, traffic movements at the two site driveways will also operate at generally acceptable LOS. The only approach that will experience a relatively long delay, which is 82.6, and that's average, which is classified as an F, which is the worst case. A through F, F is the worst. And I guess that's somewhat concerning, because if you're talking, a minute and a half, somebody sitting there, I guess, and that's an average, coming out and going north onto Route 10. I guess that's a major concern for me. And then on the number of capacity hours, the peak trips of 70 within that peak hour, that's also somewhat of a concern. And I assume you've looked at these numbers? You've seen the numbers?
I tried to decipher, as I stated before, as much as I can, but I can address those.
Yeah,
I'll let you
okay.
finish.
I guess if you would just address the one concern that I have, which is the 82.6 average coming out of that driveway going north. And the way people are driving today, waiting a minute and a half to get out is a long time.
I went, wait a minute and a half, I'll definitely agree with that. The 82.6, is that seconds? Because and again, forgive me, because I
Yes.
don't read too many traffic
Yes,
studies.
yep.
I was under the impression that was an average of, I forget what page it was on, but it was average of like 36 or 39 seconds, if I remember correctly, of wait time. I did see the F grade as well, but I think, I've never said this, and my mom would kill me, but F was actually within your exceptions, within the acceptable grading. As well as the 75 max capacity trips, we're in 70, and it's within your guys' rules to stay within that 75. So I guess that's kind of the best I could speak on. The wait time, I thought it was 36 seconds. A minute and a half I could see would be terrible. But again, it's Queen Street. You know, you drive down, you have 2 lanes. Every single business on Queen Street has this same issue. I'm not adding anything extra so it's like part of Southington life on Queen Street or West Street, as we've seen before. So again, I don't know if what I can do to stop traffic from coming. I can only do what you guys require, stay within all of those grades that you guys provide us to stay within, and, you know, kind of go forward with that. You know, because there's nothing I can do to change the amount of traffic that's coming in. And again, I mean, you drive up and down right next door, they have to cross to Meineke or whatever it is. They have to cross that traffic. Everyone's in that every single business on that side of the road is in the same exact predicament as I am. So I'd be willing to accommodate what every other business has done to do that, to make, you know, the town of Southington better and happy.
Thank you.
I'm going to go off of what Bob's line of questioning was there a little bit. And just to go back to what was said earlier, I'm not sure that the primary concern is on what it does to Queen Street. I think the primary concern is what it does to the internal flow of traffic in that lot.
That wait
And
time,
how
you're
that,
saying.
how that affects possibly adversely the safety of the children that are moving around that site to and from your building, if you will. And I think that's a concern, and I would appreciate you opining a little bit on that. And I too also believe that part of our special permit regulations, which is what you're falling under here, actually speak to traffic generation and not having it be worsened by a site. But again, I go back to what I just said. I think the concern is the internal flow of traffic, from what I heard from people here in my review, personal review of what I saw. And I appreciate you trying to make every effort to improve that. I just am not quite sure that you're there, and I'm trying to give you every opportunity to speak to that. So again, if you could speak to how that affects, because if you're a parent or anyone coming out of that lot, that's going to back up. If it's a minute and a half, 82 seconds, I think it said, right?
82.6, yeah.
If it's a minute and a half, that traffic is going to start queuing back into the lot, and therefore your traffic flow is going to be possibly, and I might say not necessarily, very impossibly adversely affected, because traffic is backing up into what you envision as being a perfect scenario.
I see what you're saying. As you're saying that, what if, because the traffic would only come in that center, that's where it would hold off the 82.6 seconds and would back up into my parking lot here. What if that was an entrance only? And then on the far side, exit only, right turn only? Would that help queuing? That would help the stopping from it backing up? Stopping it from, you know, that minute and a half, as you say that, I could see what you're saying. Someone's waiting here at a light, and it's gonna come all the way around it, and it could block all of these buildings both ways for a minute and a half with a lot of people in there. So maybe if we had entrance only coming in that center, one in front of the middle building, and then an exit only to get out, which is only a right turn, which would stop. I'm not saying that you're not still gonna have traffic, but I don't think you would accumulate the 82.6 seconds because it's a right turn and you're not going across traffic. Kind of a question.
Could I maybe be a little bit frank, and if I am stepping over bounds, please don't hesitate to tell me. That might work for your facility, but there's 2 other buildings there, and the site is owned by somebody who's not coming here with that proposal. And so I don't know that you have the authority, nor would I be comfortable as a commission member acting on that proposal absent the owner of the site coming here and making that a proposal to us.
Could we make that as a contingency, so I could speak to him
We,
on
we,
that?
we could, but
If that was
if we,
solved, that
if we did that, that affects the entire site. And I'm not comfortable as a commission member doing that unless the owner of the site comes and asks us to do that. I get that it may accommodate or make your operation work better. However, there's two other buildings there that owner has to sell or populate with other businesses, and I'm not sure that that's going to be attractive to them, nor am I certain that the owner of the site is willing to make that accommodation for you,
Fair enough.
unless we hear from them. And we haven't heard from them, and I don't think they're here this evening. So I'm just saying, as a commission member, I would not be comfortable making that a stipulation on this application. But there's six
It
other
was just a
commission
thought
members who can do what
to
they
try
want to
to
do. so.
combat that issue. Ideally, we wouldn't
I
want to
hope
do that
that wasn't
either.
too frank or
No,
rude.
no,
I
not at all.
wasn't trying to do that at all.
I'm trying to, honestly, guys, I'm trying to come up with a solution that's going to work for everybody here.
I get
I
that.
feel like I'm, with all due respect, jumping through hoops for a property that I'm just looking to lease and operate a business, that I operate a business a quarter of a mile away, and I have the same exact traffic issues that you guys are speaking of right now. My kids are playing in a parking lot right now. That's where our playground is. So, to me, this is like worlds and worlds better than the situation that we're in now. And I'm just trying to accommodate what we have. I've looked everywhere in Southington. I just don't have anything else to kind of come with this. And I feel that this circulation was best fit for this property. And very well said, there are other businesses here. The other businesses aren't going to have to go through this, but I need some accommodation. I'm trying to accommodate what I can with what I have.
No, and I, for one, I appreciate that. I appreciate you doing everything that you can. I appreciate you taking the steps that you've taken. I'm just trying to express what I'm getting as a sense from the commission of what their concerns are and trying to give you every opportunity to sort of address that. And maybe it's not addressable. Maybe it
Yeah.
it can't happen. I don't know. I mean, that's to be seen. But, I appreciate what you're trying to do. I recognize that there's a bit of a deficiency in daycare facilities in our town. And that's why we've seen a number of applications come before us, especially in the last, 12 months. We've had probably 2 or 3
Of the biggest
different
ones around,
applications for
too.
daycare facilities. And I think that's why it's happening. And, people returning to the office and doing that type of stuff, it puts more weight on there. I've been there. I have 4 kids that all went to daycare, both in Southington and outside of Southington. So I know exactly what's out there and what the opportunities are, and that there is a need for that here. I just don't know, not prejudging it right now, but if this site necessarily works for that. Are there other ones around town? I don't know. I know that you've looked and you represented that tonight, and I have no reason to disbelieve that. But two, maybe it just isn't a site that works for this. We'll see, but.
And we would say that only because of circulation within?
Well, I think that the primary concern that I've heard from people here, and I don't want to speak for anybody, they're perfectly capable of doing that themselves, is that is the concern. That is the primary concern, is internal traffic flow and the safety of that internal traffic flow on the children that are going to be in that area. The queuing of traffic, and we went through this with one daycare facility, the queuing of traffic out on West Street that they came, and they came back with a revised plan, was that it was backing it up to the point where it would make it hard for people to maneuver within an already difficult parking lot for them to maneuver in. And, that's one of those where it was built around the daycare facility, so they had I guess, the comfort of being able to go out there and design it any way they wanted to make it work. And they ended up coming back with one that answered a lot of the concerns that were brought up on the initial application, and we ultimately approve it. It's actually being built right now.
Yep.
Surprisingly, they're moving fast, but they're moving fast because there's an audience out there, and I'm sure you see it in your business where you are right now, of people that are looking for that option to take care of their kids, someplace that's safe, someplace that's comfortable, someplace that, is hopefully enriching for the children, and, someplace where they don't have concerns about where they're dropping off. And I think that's what you provide right now.
And I can assure you that the safety of the kids, I don't think the kids' safety are in jeopardy the way that we have this set up whatsoever. There's no kids out in front other than with their own parents to walk into a building and walk out of a building.
Okay.
And we even changed, like I said, the interior to have kids going within the building or within the playground, again, for safety. So kids' concern, I think we addressed drastically. The circulation, I mean, I kind of agree with you to ask, that's a big ask to ask someone to have a one-way exit, right only, no other business has that issue. So I honestly, I think would say that this would be one of, if not the only solution that we would have.
Okay. Let me, and I'm not trying to manipulate the conversation, I'll certainly open up to other commission members, but just one thought is, just to put it on the record, you're regulated by the state of Connecticut Department of
OEC.
OEC, okay. And they have regulations with regards to staff-student ratios based on their age. They have regulations relative to different things that you have to be able to provide for, right? Cleanliness.
Correct.
Type of regulations that
Lighting,
you're
the-
required
the
to adhere to,
lumens.
correct?
Yep.
In order to maintain a license that you get from the state of Connecticut to operate as a daycare facility, correct?
Correct.
And those regulations also have stipulations in them and requirements of you on when students are being watched and, you know, for playground area, for example, that they're required to have. If you have 10 kids out there, you're required to have a certain number of staff members out there keeping an eye on those kids to make sure that they're safe
Correct.
and they don't get hurt, correct?
Correct, yep.
Do those regulations at all speak to internal traffic flow of sites? I don't know the answer to this. I'm hoping you might know because you live in that world. Does it at all speak to internal traffic flow of sites?
Specifically pick up, drop off?
Yes.
As we're speaking of?
Yeah,
Off the top of my head, I have never encountered that. I have not seen anything on that. I will say that they would, if it was a safety issue, so for example, and this is kind of it's kind of tied in, my current daycare has the playground in, we took up, let's say, 10 parking spots, fenced it in, put turf down, and have like Jersey barrier type things in front of it. They made us fence everything all in, the sizes of the fence, again, because of not necessarily pickup drop-off, but traffic throughout. So they do have rules in safety of pickup and drop-off.
Okay.
I don't want to speak on exactly what, if I have to have a certain amount of spots or anything like that, but they have to review these plans as well for us to
Okay.
get that license.
I just wanted to get it on the record that there are hoops that you have to jump through that speak to the safety of the kids and, we've spoken to some extent about that, and I just wanted to give you an opportunity to just sort of let people know what that is. as
Yes, I
well.
appreciate that. Ratios, OEC is going to be the biggest. You guys may say yes, and if I don't do this right, OEC is going to say, no, you're not going to get a license anyway.
Okay.
So you guys are like little step on a huge hill,
We're not so little.
No, not,
I know,
I
I'm-
said that wrong. I apologize,
I'm
guys.
kidding around.
First step on a huge
Try to keep it
hill.
lighthearted, Matt, any other members of the commission have any questions of the applicant at this time? Jen,
I'm little.
you carry a big stick though.
I'm
Jen.
sorry, guys, I didn't mean it that way.
Don't let anyone be fooled by that. Or let them, even better.
I wanted to just ask if it is possible, or if it helps anyone, or if it makes it worse. I was just kind of reshuffling the parking spots in my head. If the employee parking is all moved to the street side of the parking, and your flow is not crunched into one rectangle, so there'd be two way, you could drop off your child, you could go right or you could go left, but it would only be like in the front parking spaces. So I don't know if that's a possibility or if it just makes it worse.
Can I ask where you're talking about, meaning where I have right now employee parking,
So
move
it's-
that to the street side and
Yeah.
allow that for pickup, drop off as well?
Correct.
We absolutely would be open to that. The only reason why I put it in front of the building was that concern of it's just that much further for a parent, and we really think of, we have a lot of infants. You know, so for a parent to get their diaper bag, their the car seat and lug it all the way across, or to have, you know, we have a lot of brothers and sisters, or brothers, or two brothers, two sisters, you know, to try to get 2, 3-year-old crazy kids running all through the parking lot,
Yeah.
we figured putting it in front would just be the safest, less distance traveled.
Okay, got it. I just wanted to. see.
But again, I would, if this would help the circulation issue here, I'll put parking
And I
anywhere
don't know
you
if it
want.
would or wouldn't. I was just kind of reshuffling in my head. So I wanted to just, didn't know what anyone thought about that.
Yeah, we've definitely played with that,
Yeah,
trying to
I'm sure. Okay.
eliminate all the spots in one spot and then having to back up and turn.
Yeah.
But I actually feel more, yeah, that's all I got.
Okay, that's it.
Open to it for sure.
One second, Caleb, any questions? Caleb?
So, yeah, I mean, I looked at the exact same thing that Commissioner Clark said, too. I think it, being closer, at least in that front row around the building, yeah, it might be a little bit farther of a walk. However, we have choice, you know? So, you know, if a parent wants to pull into, you know, right in front of the building where the doors are, or they want to pull to the east side of the building, then they can do that. And then having the employees park, you know, in those two corrals, so to speak, on the east side of the entire parking lot, I think does kind of help you out a little bit as far as remove more vehicles from the area directly around the building. I mean, when my son was going to daycare, it was in a similar parking lot like this. You know, we all had to navigate through it pretty successfully. I'm really not concerned about the parking area, but I do think that that's helpful, and I think that anything we can do does help. The 86 seconds is a lot. That's a lot. And so, I mean, you're gonna have, just by the nature of, you know, your sheer volume, when you first have people dropping off between, you know, 7:30 and 8:30 in the morning, you're gonna have people backing up to where, you know, the employee parking space is gonna be. It's just the sheer nature of Queen Street at that time of day. But, you know, I do appreciate, and I think I was the one that asked you about trying to keep travel between the building directly into the playground, and
Yeah.
I think that's a really good move. I think it's good internally, so that you don't have to bring them out anyway, and the fact that you built a corridor so that it kind of designates that as a way out, I think that's great.
That was a great idea, thank you.
Oh, yeah, came up with that just out of the blue. It was, that's not a asked question. But yeah, I just wanted to kind of put those comments on the record. I again, I think what Jen was saying, that, yeah, I think it would be helpful to include that little extra for parents to drop off. And then, again, like everybody else is saying, that's a lot, minute and a half, so that's a big one.
One thing I actually, while I'm thinking of it, I want to address, I did submit on the first part of the permit, we have like an electronic drop-off, so a parent would come in and they literally like check their kid in, so I know how long I have people in, whether it's 2 minutes, 8 minutes, 7 minutes, and the amount of people that we have. I can only go based on, you know, we have 32 students right now, we're going up 16 more students if we could get approved. But I believe it was 3 to 4 parents at any given time within a 5 to 8 minute spread. And those documents you guys do have there. So with 16, we're actually looking probably only about 8 cars at a minute, or 8 cars at any given time, maybe 6 cars at any given time, dropping off children in and out. So we do have a minute and a half, but it's not like I have 48 cars lined up or 24 cars lined up dropping off, you know, kids back and forth. So there's nothing I could do about the minute and a half, it sure is. but-
So, I mean, well, you can explore this a little bit more. So within a 10-minute period, with the additional 16,
We'll have about 5 cars,
5 cars.
about 5 cars.
In a 10-minute period.
In a 10-minute period.
Okay.
And they kind of circulate. If you look at like I did it, it's an Excel sheet. They're literally, it's like every like 5 4 to 7 minutes, there's a new person being checked in. So it's, you know, there's a few times you're gonna get 2, 3, 4 cars at the same time, but for the most part, no one's coming, you have to be here at 8:30, so at 8:10, you know, everyone's piling in. We have from 7 o'clock to 9 o'clock, all of our families have different work schedules and whatnot. So it does help split that up a little bit, just to, you know, I thought it was worth noting that we're not having 48 kids. We're gonna have 5 or 6 cars pretty consistently for a couple hours, though. for the first couple hours.
When do you open?
7 a.m.
And when do you typically stop seeing the morning rush?
We have a rule that all children have to be in by 9 o'clock, because otherwise it kind
To
of
have 2 hour-
disrupts the whole
Yeah,
schedule.
2-hour window?
2-hour window, yeah.
Currently, do you have any open spaces?
No.
When's the last time you had an open space that was there for more than 8 seconds?
Say that again?
When's the last time you had an
Oh,
open
more than
space that
8
lasted?
seconds. I don't really handle that part. I would have to say probably about 2 months ago. And when we do, it's one spot. Like we had for, you know, during COVID, we were actually accommodating, we were taking part-time people. So there was a couple that we were trying to fill in part-time spots. But it has to be 2, 3 months since we've had an opening. And we do have a waiting list right now, too.
How many kids are on the waiting list?
Again, I don't want to give you, but I would say 5 families, 6 families.
Okay.
And some of those families are multiple children families, too.
So there's,
We have quite a bit of brother, sister. We're a smaller daycare. We're not the 150 students that, you know, West Street is building right now. There's another one on West Street that has 150 students. We're a much smaller center. And I think a lot of the families, you know, all of our families kind of know. Their cousins come to us. It's a pretty tight group.
good. All right, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay. Any other questions of the applicant from members of the commission? Okay, Matt, take a seat. Unless you have anything else, we're just going to open up to members of the public to comment.
No, thank you, guys.
Are there any members of the public who wish to comment at this time? Come on up. Steve, we already got you on the record, but you still have to give us your name for this one, so.
Understood. Steve Spence, 461 Mount Vernon Road. I just wanted to state for the record that Southington Auto Wash does have a right turn out of their entryway only. And I have seen Southington PD pull over people for turning left. So I just wanted to put that on the record, so it's not unprecedented. So, thanks.
Okay, thanks, Steve. Anyone else who'd like to speak on this application at this time? Seeing none, Matt, you got anything else to add?
No,
Yeah.
thank you. Sorry, guys.
That's okay. Is there, yeah, I was going to say, Jim and Dave, have all your questions have been responded to, or are we still waiting for some of those?
Thank you. Matt, can you just clarify the employee parking? Because on previous responses to comments, you had indicated that there's possibly 9 employees that would be parking in this lot.
Correct.
Where would those 9 spaces be?
So we had, as we were just talking, I can see it on here. I don't know, east, west. So on the drawing where I see employee you see employee parking right now?
Yeah, I actually agree with Commissioner Clark that that should be the drop-off area.
That should be
Because it's an
drop-off.
easy turnaround, K-turn to pull out. It will also provide additional queuing of traffic if things get bottlenecked there. So if that was the case, that was 5 drop-off parking spaces, where would the employee parking be?
On the roadside, and that would give us about 13 different spots on the
So
roadside.
the full 1, 2,
Directly
3,
across.
4, 5, 6.
7.
There's 7 plus continuing over to the next?
7, yep, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, another 6
And-
additional
And you're
ones there.
guaranteed that by the,
Yeah, the owner,
owner?
he's okay. He basically, and it was never set in stone, but we are putting in the lease. He has approved everything that we've put here. So moving that employee parking lot, I actually have an email that he told our engineer to have that employee parking on that roadside. So I know that will be no issue whatsoever, and I can absolutely speak on that.
thank you.
You satisfied, Jim?
Yep.
Okay. Dave, have your questions or comments been?
I think just process-wise, there still is the outstanding question of a waiver. Anything more than 25 children, you would need to vote on that by 2/3 vote.
So what's the waiver?
Prior to the SPU vote itself.
Okay, fill me in on that. I'm not sure what you're
Okay,
referring to.
so with it, for permanent adult or child daycare services, if located in a B zone, no more than 25 clients shall be accommodated at one time. Maximum number of clients may be waived by a 2/3 vote by the commission. So just process-wise, you need to agree to that first.
Okay, what regulation number are you looking at?
That is 301.2 FC. F1C.
Mr. Chair,
Yeah,
may I ask a clarification question to Dave, please?
sure, of course, go ahead.
In the documents submitted to us as the additional documents at the bottom, there was the mention by the applicant when he initiated tonight that this is zoned for retail or commercial. Third paragraph from the top, excuse me, 1, 2, 3, fourth paragraph from the top, there is a sentence here that says the 3 buildings with medical and professional offices, and we approved the same approval for 2011. So I just want to make sure that that this commission isn't being misled, that this is not within our purview to say that we're questioning a daycare facility in this spot, because it was approved back in 2011 with medical and professional offices. Is that correct? That's a question.
I would say that in the business zone, it would require the special permit, and the special permit would be driven by the nature of the business zone itself, regardless of what the initial approval was for individual uses, if you will. And I think that's part of why we asked for clarification on traffic study.
Sure.
So it's within your purview to ask for that, because it is somewhat different than the site plan that was approved for medical office. But I don't think that the difference between the retail and the other uses in a business zone would drive anything differently, other than your re-review as a special permit. So you need more detail under a special permit, hence the waiver for 25 or more because of traffic issues that could come about. They've realized over time that sites have certain capacities, and anything above that needs that finer point on it.
And that was my understanding.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to be sure that we reviewed it kind of together as the commission, AKA team, to understand a little better about this site, because this site does have a deep history. It goes back to 2011. I was not here, so I want to understand that before I make an informed decision. So I
Yeah,
appreciate
so, through the chair, again, anything in the future necessarily have the same level of review for those 2 other uses, because it is a site plan with X amount of uses approved under the business, retail, commercial, what have you. But in this case, special permits required because of the specific use.
Thank you,
all
Mr.
set?
Chair.
Yeah,
I
no,
appreciate
thank
it.
you. I told you he keeps us straight. Matt, remind me, how many clients do you have here?
We're currently at 32 students in our current daycare, and we are asking to go to 48.
So you're well above the 25 clients.
Correct,
Okay.
correct.
Good catch, Dave. Appreciate that.
And
So
and
let
I
me
just
a-
have one more question before we go
Yeah,
on, and
sure.
and more to direct your question. And it's, actually, forget it. It's
So let
irrelevant.
me
It's
ask you,
irrelevant.
let me ask you this,
It's
though,
irrelevant.
Matt. Let me ask you this, though, Matt. So we're required to waive, to allow you to go over 25. If that waiver does not, and that is a 2/3 vote, which means out of 7 of us, 5 of us has to agree to do that. If that waiver does not go through, what does that do to your plans?
I'm going to be honest, we'll probably be out of business. We'll close that daycare that we're at right now.
Okay,
And
It doesn't
only
affect
because of
where
the
you are right now,
facility
it's
that
for-
we're at,
it-
strictly because of the facility that we're at
Okay.
right now.
okay. Any other questions of the applicant? Do we have a reason to keep this application open in anyone's opinion? Jim and Dave, you good if we close the public hearing right now?
Completely up to the commission.
Okay, but you don't, I'm
Staff
asking, you
doesn't
don't have any
other
issue with
input,
that,
no.
right? Matt, you want to keep the public hearing open on this, or are you ready to, let us close it? Yeah? Well, eventually you're gonna cross the
It's a loaded
threshold to get a
question there.
decision, you're gonna get, and you don't know what it is, I don't know what it is either, so.
No, I'm ready. Honestly, this has been a hassle. You guys have all been great, and this has been a great learning experience. So, all the issues that have arisen, I think will only make our business better anyway, so.
Yeah, and I encourage you to, you know, be open to other ideas as well.
Without a
I don't
doubt.
know how this is gonna go or where it's gonna go, but, if it doesn't go the way that you want to, I encourage you, like I encourage any applicant to, you know, have a conversation with people to see if there's some way we can make it work. And sometimes that happens, and sometimes it doesn't, so.
Yep.
Any member of the commission have an objection to us closing a public hearing on this? We'll close the public hearing on it. Moving on to the business medium item A, Mount Southington LTD Partnership Special Permit Modification Application for expansion of existing SPU at 396 Mount Vernon Road to add parcel located at 426 Mount Vernon Road. Property located at 426 Mount Vernon Road is zoned as an R2025 SPU 681. Let's open discussion on this. Is there any discussion on this? Do we have a motion here?
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion that we approve SPU 681.
You want to make that conditional on the health?
I'm sorry?
You want to make that conditional on the health department approval?
I think we're good with that. Mr. Chairman.
That's not,
That, we're all
That's
set
not
there?
the
We did
Okay.
receive responses from that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right, so, okay, so no. You're better than me, Bob. You make the motion, so it's yours. Okay, we have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Tedesco with a second. Any discussion?
Mr. Chair, I agree with this. I have no problem with this particular special permit. I think as discussion came, we're gonna have a lot of discussion on site plan, on drainage and wetlands and all the things that the public so eloquently described. And so I think that's gonna be a robust conversation for us to be sure we get this right. But I think this is within our regs and I have no issue with it.
Okay. Any other discussion from members of the commission? I agree with Peter. I think that, you know, Mount Southington has been a good neighbor to this community and been an asset to this community. One of the things I'll advise the residents who came out tonight, a lot of your comments, as I said, relate to the site plan. A site plan will follow this. A site plan, you will not be notified the way you were notified by this on. But what you can do is just maintain, looking at the agendas that come out, they tend to come out the Friday before we meet. We meet on the first and third Tuesday of every month, with the exceptions of July and August, when we only meet one time on those months, and that tends to be, or it is, the third Tuesday of the month. So, you know, call the planning department, ask them, they're very helpful over there, and they can help you know when that comes out. However, on a site plan application, there is not public comment, is not taken on a site plan application. That's strictly a conversation amongst the applicant and us. They're required to adhere to the regulations that we have on the books. As their engineer announced tonight or informed tonight, we do have zero runoff regulations, which does not allow them to make it worse. But they also are not, and to be clear, they are not required to make it better. You heard us plead with them to ask them, you know, in their good faith to do that, but it's completely up to the applicant, and that's something that's driven between them and their engineer to try to work out. So with that, I'll ask for a roll call to be taken on this, please, Dave.
Commissioner Tedesco,
Yes.
Commissioner Volpe,
Yes.
Commissioner Klopp,
Yes.
Commissioner Wolowski,
yes.
Commissioner Santiago,
Yes.
Vice Chair Salka,
Yes.
and Chair Hammersley.
Hammersley's a yes, 7-0, motion passes. Item 9B, 6C LLC, special permit application for a child daycare facility property located at 36 Queen Street, Zone B, SPU 678. I think the first thing that we probably should take up is the waiver that's required. And again, we're required to, let me just look at it here. It says if located in a building In a business zone, which this is, no more than 25 clients shall be accommodated at one time. The maximum number of clients may be waived by a 2/3 vote by the commission. So that would require 5 votes in favor of a waiver to allow more than 25 clients here. So can we get do we have a motion to provide for such a waiver? Don't have a motion. I think that our legal department would ask if there's a motion to not provide a waiver with a clearly stated reason why we would not provide for such a waiver. But we got to do something.
I'll make a motion, Mr. Chair, to deny the waiver in front of us on the grounds that I don't feel like there's an adequate circulation plan in front of us at this time, nor do I feel like that circulation plan was substantiated by the traffic study. That 82.6 seconds is something worthy of taking note of, and we only have what's in front of us and not the other businesses on Queen Street to consider at this time. So therefore, I make a motion to deny the additional students.
Okay, so we have a motion to deny the waiver to allow for over 25 clients at that site for the reasons stated clearly and concisely by Commissioner Volpe. Do we have a second for that?
I'll second it.
So Volpe, Soka. Any further discussion on that? Okay, so if you vote yes here, you're voting to deny the waiver. And if you vote no, you're voting to provide for the waiver. And with that, Dave, could you please call the roll?
Commissioner Tedesco,
Yes.
Commissioner Volpe,
Yes.
Commissioner Clark,
Yes.
Commissioner Walowski,
Yes.
Commissioner Santiago,
Yes.
Vice Chair Salka.
Yes.
And Chair Hammerson.
In the interest of trying to keep the conversation open, I will vote no on that, but it doesn't matter because it's still, the waiver is denied on a 6-1 vote. So now we move on to the actual application. Based on the applicant's comments, I think this is somewhat of a moot point, but one that we must take. So do we have a motion on the actual application? Again, the motion could be to deny the application, but we should state clearly the reasons why we are denying that application, which may or may not be the same reasons provided for the denial.
Chairman, I'll make a motion that we
Okay.
deny this application, SPU 678. And I think it was clearly stated, I think the traffic flow within this site for this particular application or this particular use, I think is not appropriate or not adequate. And I'm also concerned about the traffic study on the entrance or the exit coming out onto Route 10. I think the 82.6 seconds average, I think, is exceptionally long, especially for that area, which is just opposite of near Flanders Street. So I think with that, I would motion to deny.
Okay, so we have a motion to deny. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Commissioner Volpe with a second. Any further discussion?
I think I'd just like to say
Steve.
that while this has been a difficult choice, the approval process for the daycare on West Street, we made them resubmit, and I understand, we held them to a higher standard, and I understand you have site restrictions, and we just have to be consistent. So with that said, I'm all set.
Okay, any other? Peter?
No, the other thing to echo my fellow commissioner, I have empathy for the applicant, trying to find a new spot, did everything that was asked of us. I have empathy for the owner of the property, trying to find tenants. But to echo fellow commissioners, I don't think this is the right place for this. And upon reflection of the data, I think the decision, and as stated by Commissioner Volpe earlier, those reasons, I think, give us adequate reason for denial. So I'm in agreement with the motion.
Anyone else? I'll wrap it up by saying, I agree. I think there's internal traffic issues that are present here that I'm not sure are surmountable or easy to overcome. But I do, as I said, with the previous motion, I do want to keep the conversation open if that's possible. And I would encourage the applicant to reach out to our staff, town staff, who does a pretty good job of doing site searches for this type of stuff, and especially the services that you provide, which as I stated earlier, I think there's a deficit in this community for those services. And I would encourage you to do whatever you can to try to find a different location possibly, or continue to work on the traffic flow, internal traffic flow here to make it a little bit better, if that's possible at all. I'm not sure that it is, but with that, Dave, if you can call the roll, please.
Commissioner Tedesco.
Yes, is a denial.
Yes.
Okay,
I kind of
Commissioner-
got lost in all the commentary. Pardon me.
sorry.
Commissioner Volpe.
Yes.
Commissioner Clark.
Yes.
Commissioner Walowski.
Yes.
Commissioner Santiago.
Yes.
Vice Chair Salka.
Yes.
And Chair Hammerson.
Hammers is a yes, motion's denied, or application is denied 7-0. Moving on to 9C, Mohawk Northeast, Inc., site plan modification application to construct a parking and equipment storage, property located at 246 Canal Street, zoned in an I2, SPR 1868. Seb Provino, floor is yours, sir. Have something to put on the screen, Seb?
He's gonna try.
Anyways. Thank you all for coming out. Anything else to talk about?
I got engaged.
Oh, good for you. Christina Volpe, congratulations.
That is something to talk about.
That is something to talk
That's why I
about.
wasn't here last time.
Oh,
I guess that's an excuse.
Do we dare ask when the date is?
Not till 2025. We're taking some time, but we're looking at every historic property from here to.
well, no, it's going to be in Southington, Christina. I
If
mean,
you
come
see a
on.
little party at the Barns, just keep driving.
Yeah,
Little lack of surprise.
I can walk to the barn, so, you know,
Welcome anytime.
yeah, I know.
Congratulations.
Good for you.
Thank you so much.
It's always good news. Seb, you ready to go?
Mr. Chairman, Commission members, Seb Bovino, planner with Kratzer Jones and Associates. Representing the applicant, the property is located at 243 Canal Street. The map is oriented north-south. North is to the top. Canal Street is to the west. Property is served by public water and sewer. It is in the I2 zone. There's an existing building on the property. It's 5,120 square feet. It's a one-story building, slab on grade. It is used for storage of construction materials. We also have parking in the rear of this facility for machinery, and some to the south side for employees. For orientation purpose, the parking for employees is right in this area here. The machinery is at this location. And there's two storage bins here, one for stone, one for sand. The lot area is 1.52 acres. The lot coverage is 7.7%. The allowed coverage in this area is 50%. We provide a handicap parking, paved handicap parking on the south side, right in this area here. Provide the appropriate signage. We also propose evergreen trees on the north side to shield the neighbors at this location. And we were told the spacing that it was preferred, and that's what we provide. We have two curb cuts on this property, so there's a good circulation. Also, street trees are provided along the frontage as required. To achieve zero increase in runoff, we provide sheet runoff. This property slopes west to east in this direction to a grass area here and a grass area at this location. So we provide two stone trenches at the edge of the property here to allow the sheet runoff to enter, do the groundwater recharge, and then whatever, if there is any overflow, will discharge into this grass area north and south of the property. We received staff comments, address those comments by revising the plans, provided a stop sign and a stop bar at the entrance as requested. The lighting is existing, but we agreed that we're going to shield the lighting if it's necessary to prevent any glares to the neighbors. That's basically it. It's an existing ongoing operation, and there was no site plan at the town hall on this property. It was used for years and years by, I believe, an oil delivery company, Flugrad, I believe it was Flugrad. And then this was used as a shop, and currently it's owned by the entity that's across the street north of here. So we're here to have your blessing on this application.
All set?
Just for your information, we're not providing any screening on the south side because it's zoned industrial and it's owned by the same people. There's no residence here. The structure on this property is, used to be used as a residence, but it's vacant, and we do not intend to use it as a residence.
Okay. That's it?
That's it.
All right, open it up to members of the commission. Any questions? Peter?
So Rails to Trails is there, right?
The rail to trail is to the east, located on the
There.
old railroad bed,
Right,
right here.
So what my only question is, if we're doing something new there facing the trail, aesthetically, the growth that we have facing the trail,
There's a good tree buffer, underbrush buffer, right
Okay.
along the rail to trail. That has been left untouched. It will not be touched. There's a sewer easement right here,
yeah,
so we're not going to interfere with any of that area.
so the way the trail looks now, looking into that property is not gonna be altered?
No.
Okay. All right, that's all I have.
Okay. Any other questions or comments from members of the commission? Does have anything else to add?
No, sir.
All right. Okay. So, what are our thoughts?
What's that?
What are our thoughts? I think there's some comments from engineering that,
Yeah.
Yeah, there's
you
two.
want to talk to those, Jim?
Two comments,
Yep.
thank you. Mr. Santago touched a little bit on it with the trail. We're just want to make sure that no runoff, surface runoff goes off the site onto the trail. And Mr. Bavino mentioned about the shielding of the existing lighting on site.
Okay. Nick, you look like you want to say
it's
something,
just-
or am I just,
I was gonna move to, I was gonna make a movement.
you can make a movement.
All right.
Don't let me stop you, Nick. I should never stand in the way of any movement you want to make.
Mr. Chairman, we just,
Well, I just wanted to make sure that.
we just need health approval as well stipulated.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the one with health approval.
You saw that in the memo, yep.
Mr. Chair, I move to approve SPR 1868, stipulating that engineering and health department, that we satisfy engineering and health department needs.
Okay,
I'll second.
we've got Salka with a second. Any further discussion? Jim and Dave, are those stipulations satisfactory to what you thought was interest here?
To me, yes.
Yeah, okay. Good job, Nick.
I don't have to do one very often.
Well, we'll have to change that, brother, so. Okay, let's get a roll call.
Commissioner Tedesco,
Yes.
Commissioner Volpe,
Yes.
Commissioner Clark,
Yes.
Commissioner Walewski,
Yes.
Commissioner Santago,
Yes.
Vice Chair Salka,
Yes.
and Chair Henry.
Hammer Susie Gas, motion passes 7-0.
Thank you.
Thank you. Item 9D and 9E, we're looking for a table line. Can we get a motion to table?
So moved, Mr. Chair.
Walowski with a motion, second by Santago. Any discussion on that? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries. Administrative items. All I have is, again, after this meeting, we move into our summer schedule, which is a once a month thing. Our next meeting is on July 18th, followed by August 15th. if you're not able to make it, just let me know, and we'll try to accommodate. I'm not quite sure what my health condition is going to be on those specific dates. It's really a game time decision, but hopefully it will fall into the same category as this evening was in. So, and I'll also just use this as an opportunity to thank everybody on this commission for reaching out to me at some point over the last couple of months and lending me their support and their prayers. Keep them coming, guys. It helps. We'll get there, I'm sure of it. I don't know how long it's going to take, but I will prevail, I assure you of that. So, anything for you, Dave, on administrative, or?
No, just the receipt of applications coming up.
Yeah, we have 3 applications pending there. I will let you know that earlier today, Commissioner Clark contacted me on cottage food industry application, asking if it's possible for us to handle those administratively, because they really are administrative in nature. I did speak to Dave about that earlier. He thought it was a good idea. He was going to try to look into that to see if that could be done. And it really is an accommodation for the applicant, so they don't have to sit through whatever number of public hearings are out there. And, I'm always trying to juggle them towards the beginning, but that requires process, and even someone to even show up, late at night and sit through some of this, I thought was a great idea by Jen, and hopefully we can
I
get that
agree,
done.
and if it can't be, they have to bring the goods so we can eat it.
Yeah,
Just
well,
want to say, it's not considered bribery if we're not acting.
I don't know do that, but,
Thank you.
But I think it's a great idea.
yeah, I thank Jen for,
Mr. Chairman, on that table that we just did,
yes, sir.
was that both for D and E? Was
Yes.
Was there a single motion for both? Okay.
It's the same site, so I think that there's some outstanding
Okay,
things that
I
they're
wanna make
looking for
sure
there,
that's
so that's why we asked for a table on that.
Dave?
Anyone else have anything? Congratulations to Commissioner Volpe on her
Absolutely.
engagement. Yeah, thank you. We'll put that officially on the record.
We did, Mr. Chairman, we did get one more receipt of a new application for Service Master, very similar to this application. It's just redoing a site that exists for a new company on 161 Atwater.
Atwater, okay. That's I-1 or I-2 out there?
Yes.
Well stated, Dave. Good job.
It's an aye.
Whatever.
Alex would appreciate that response, so,
Atwater Manufacturing has been there since 1837.
wow.
Well,
Thank you.
All right, the last thing I'll bring up, just for the commission's information, is I did speak to Lou Perillo earlier today, asking him about the developments that are going on down on Queen Street, all sites that we played a role in. 7-Eleven is looking at a late summer opening, hopefully sometime in late August, but don't hold me to that date, or them. IN is looking at a late 2023 opening. That's an unofficial date that they haven't really confirmed, but Lou seemed to think like that's what they were shooting for. And if you all do like I do on your days off, which are prominent in my world, I could do it safely, but you notice that the foundation on building number 1 at the Beaman Corman site was down, I think, late last week. So that's positive
That's
development. And as I said to someone earlier today, it's an application or a site that had a lot of hair on the dog of a very hairy dog. So it was very complex, but the fact that they're laying the foundation speaks positive to it actually coming to fruition sometime sooner rather than later. So I'm happy about that as well.
Absolutely.
I did send out a picture of the affordable housing plan that we approved a couple of years ago. They move fast. I'm very impressed with the way that looks. And, if you drive around the block there, you can't see the building or the buildings. But once you pull in, and that's covered by foliage right now, I'm sure that when the foliage removes, but it's nothing to be embarrassed by. I think that they did a great job, and I think the commission did a great job getting them to that point. And as I said, we actually exceeded the 30% requirement on that application by working with the applicant to get that done. So a lot of exciting stuff are going on around our town, and I think that we are, all of us are to be proud of the things that we've done here over the last couple of years, and hopefully we continue to work in that collaborative manner to do what's best for, what we think is best for our town. So I thank all of you for that. With that, can we get a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Have a wonderful 4th of July holiday, everybody, and God bless America.